Hey everyone, it's Casimus Lego, and welcome to my latest custom minifigure review video, and today I'm finally continuing my Harry Potter custom minifigure series with 3 brand new figures from The Prisoner of Azkaban. For this video, I've made Professor Remus John Lupin, Professor Severus Snape, Peter Pettigrew, and semi-purist figures of Harry Potter in his 3rd year and Sirius Black. It's been a year since the last time I've made Harry Potter figures, not since a year and a half ago, so I'm thrilled to continue this project with figures from what many would consider the best entry in the film series. I'm a big fan of the Columbus-directed films, but I'm still very fond of The Prisoner of Azkaban. The tone of this one is so atmospheric and haunting, and yet so perfect. I would have liked this video to come out much sooner, but as you know, university finals had to come first. Nevertheless, I don't want to waste any more time, so let's go ahead and get a close-up look at each of these custom LEGO minifigures. Let's start things off with Harry Potter from the 3rd act of the film. This is of course a semi-purist figure, meaning that I did very basic modifications to LEGO's official figure. I've been a fan of this design since I saw the film, and seeing how I didn't really want to make a fully brand new Harry figure, I thought making this quick purist version just to get him into the project would be an excellent idea. I hardly ever make purist figures, so perhaps this is just the start of a new trend for me. Now that said, aside from painting his shoes brown, I mainly wanted to paint the athletic white stripes on Harry's sleeves. The white paint was, like always, tricky to work with, but with some good shaking and some water, the paint smoothed up just enough to give me the confidence I needed, and actually, I think they turned out alright. Both arms have the 2 parallel lines, and this detail alone adds so much to the whole figure. I also made some simple changes to Harry's face and hair. Like my previous Harry figures, I went ahead and painted his hair dark brown, and also repainted the eyebrows on both expressions. This is the first time I'm getting the chance to represent Harry's growing age by use of that head print and the medium posable LEGO leg elements. And topped off with a dark brown wand, that's it for Harry Potter in his 3rd year at Hogwarts. I can't wait to see the evolution of my custom Harry figures by the end of the series. Next up is notorious mass murderer, but more appropriately known as Harry's godfather. This is Sirius Black. This figure is also semi-purist, although with the amount of details I've added to him, I think semi is saying too much. Essentially, all I've done to this figure is paint the shoes, and I also went ahead and repainted his beard in my own dark brown color, and that's it. Now, even though the changes are so minimal, I still wanted to make a quick figure not only so I could include him in my custom film poster recreation, as is tradition, but also so that I could pair him with Harry. These two meet for the first time in this film, so I think it's fitting for the 2 figures to be a pair. I did consider making a fully custom figure of this version of the character, seeing how much of this film is about him, but I thought I would save it for his appearance from the Order of the Phoenix, as I'm much more fond of how Sirius looks in that film. This will probably be the shortest segment of any of my custom LEGO minifigure videos, but I'm glad to include him here nonetheless. With those simple figures out of the way, we can take a look at the first fully custom minifigure that I completed for this project. Here is Remus John Lupin, Order of Merlin First Class, and also an afflicted werewolf. Lupin is a fan favorite character of many, myself included, so I knew that this project would see a version of this character made into a figure. I think this custom is pretty standard, but still a nice one for the collection. I want to start with the suit, which is a completely fabric piece. It wraps around the figure and neatly overlaps itself at the front of the torso. I could have easily painted the suit, but if there is an opportunity to make something with fabric, I typically will go for it. I like all the additional fabric pieces on the suit as well. These include the collars and 3D pockets that I then painted the designs onto. There's also some buttons and a thin pocket near the right side of the torso for where I'd expect to find a handkerchief. The edges of the suit, collars, and pockets are all painted in a lighter brown, and turning to the back side of the figure, you can see more of the outlining and also some crease details. Underneath the fabric coat is also a painted torso that I'm really glad I was able to include. As you can see, there are some pinstriped lines. The painted collar is visible as well. The 2 horizontal lines inside of each collar were the most difficult lines to paint, by the way. I thought they were going to end up looking messy, being their size and all, but thankfully, they look fairly clean. The tie, like the suit, is made from fabric too, painted dark brown. I would argue that the vertical lines seen here are even better, but I prefer the details on the shirt collars. Just below Lupin's torso is a pair of legs with minimal detail. I painted the seam lines on each leg and a pair of brown shoes with dark brown soles. Quite frankly, I think I could have added more here. It does look kind of plain. The arms are much of the same case. They are simply painted in the same color to match the suit, although the wrists of the hands are painted in the same light tone as the shirt, so that's pretty neat. For the head, I went with LEGO's official head print from the Shrieking Shack and Whomping Willow set from the 2023 LEGO Harry Potter wave. I prefer this version to the previous version from 2018. I think it resembles David Thewlis much more. I like the kind expression here, as well as the expression on the back, which of course represents Lupin in mid-transformation. So no modifications were made to either side of the head. The hair, however, was something I did want to make a little bit more unique, so I decided to sculpt Lupin's signature style. I started from a LEGO DC Superman hairpiece, the one with the curl in the middle, of which I proceeded to slice off before sculpting the correct side of the part, and then reconstructing the front with these two hair strands. I'm still not an expert when it comes to sculpting hair, but I'm happy with what I've accomplished here. When all was said and done, a simple coat of dark brown paint was applied to finish off. Lupin is of course equipped with a standard LEGO Harry Potter wand in reddish brown. Additionally, I have made a custom LEGO briefcase for him to carry. This accessory isn't based on any material from the film. I simply made a unique design just for the fun of it. The straps are made from thin strips of E-tape, and they even have some lining and button details. The tops also connect with some painted latches. And you can't have a Prisoner of Azkaban themed Remus Lupin without him offering someone a piece of chocolate, so I've also given him a 1x1 reddish brown Lego tile to represent that. So that's all the details on Remus Lupin. Werewolf or not, a nicely done custom minifigure. Here is the famed Severus Snape, head of Slytherin House and professor of potions. The performance by the late Alan Rickman for this character is perhaps one of the best parts of the film series, so obviously I wanted to make my own custom minifigure. I haven't made any of these stable Hogwarts professors yet, so I was excited to get the chance to make this iconic character, and eventually I'll pair him with a custom Dumbledore and McGonagall. To start with the figure, we'll look at the fabric black robes. I painted some crease lines, though these are very long. They cover most of the front robes on each side. I think it makes the figure look very flowy, which is exactly what I meant to capture. The suit underneath the torso was made from E-tape, with the left side overlapping the right. I wrestled around for a bit about which color I was going to paint it, whether or not it should be the more practical dark blue or the iconic purple that LEGO opts for in their official figures. I decided to go with the dark blue, but to nod to that design choice, I outlined the edges in dark purple. By far, the most difficult part about making this figure was painting the buttons on the torso as well as on the arms, which I'll show later on. I really wanted the button outlines to be as thin as possible while ensuring that the spacing was clean and consistent. I also had to paint the latches behind each of the buttons, so there was that to be considered of too. It took me a while, but eventually I was able to get to a point where I was satisfied, and I do think they came out really good. Of course, to get the shine in the black outlines, I used gloss black, which I think was the correct choice. These details pop out really well. Though you can't see it when the overcape is on, I also painted some more details onto the back of the robes. Here you can see more crease lines and even the painted seams of the robes themselves. The legs are simple. I painted the top portions in the same dark blue to resemble the suit, and some basic black shoes. There's also some other design with a gloss outline, again to make the figure's details pop. By removing the overcape, we can take a look at the arms, where you can see more of the button details I mentioned earlier. Each arm has 5 buttons against a vertical line, and painting these was way more challenging. The size alone was much more of a headache, and I know I messed up a few times getting the spacing consistent here. I think they look great, especially when the overcape drapes over them, which, speaking of, the overcape is a custom cut overcape from a base black fabric. It wasn't painted. I spent a few days testing materials and glues to find a piece of fabric that wouldn't fray when I cut it, and I'm happy to say that I finally found it. This method worked out very nicely, and the final product feels like a quality piece. It's kind of like LEGO's own papery type capes. Anyway, with the way that I cut it, it can flow over the torso and arms and come together around the back in this flowy, circular-like state. Personally, I really like it. The head and hair is nothing special, just the official Snape print from LEGO's first wave of the Harry Potter line, though I did paint this collar design on both expressions of the head, but that's about it. It may not be everyone's favorite expression from 2007, but I think this head works great for Snape. The hair is a standard LEGO element, also perfect for the character. To top off the figure, Snape carries a standard LEGO wand in black, and with that was everything on the bitter but iconic Professor Severus Snape. Now let's finish off with the final minifigure. Last but not least is ex-marauder and loyal to the Dark Lord, here is Wormtail, also known as Peter Pettigrew. This was definitely the most tedious figure to make, mainly because of the amount of lining I had to do to him, but I'll get there when I get there. I think it's important to start this segment by mentioning that this figure is kind of like two versions of the character in one, because it's supposed to represent Pettigrew as he appears in The Prisoner of Azkaban, but I base the figure almost entirely off of references for the outfit in Goblet of Fire. So this figure has the open jacket and the exposed torso, unlike how he first appears. He still turned out pretty great, even with all the details I managed to stuff onto the figure. We can first discuss this figure's most notable trait, that being all of the pinstripes. Essentially, every piece of clothing underneath the head had to have a pinstripe pattern, which I can assure you was not pleasant for me. If I'm patient, I can get them done in a relatively easy fashion, but it still took me about a week straight of on and off painting sessions just for the lines alone. I'm thankful I finished, and I certainly hope you will appreciate the work that went into making this figure. We'll begin at the legs and slowly work our way up. Obviously, all sides of the legs have this pinstripe pattern. The shoes are painted here as well, in brown with lighter soles. I think the pattern got a little bit wrinkly here, but the tears that I painted in helped to distract you. I really like how the various rips and tears look paired with this design. It's very representative of Wormtail's character. The waist has a painted belt too, with a gold belt buckle design taken from his Goblet of Fire appearance. As you can see, there is a lot going on in the torso. For one, I decided to sculpt his stomach to add some dimension to the figure. I also went ahead and sculpted the collars of the shirt near the exposed chest. Of course, most of my work went into making this design of light brown splotches to the shirt. I started in dark brown and then added a few layers of random dabs to various places. Sometimes I needed to correct the spacing, but at the end of the day, it looks pretty correct. The buttons are painted in gold and are honestly pretty large. I think they ought to be smaller, but correcting this would mean modifying the design, and I don't really feel the need to do that. The jacket was then attached on top of the torso. It's painted in dark brown and features more of the pinstripe pattern. The pattern extends all around the jacket, by the way, and features this disheveled, raggedy style by use of some random cuts in the edges of the fabric. To break up the monotony of this design, I've added some 3D fabric elements to the front of the jacket, including the collars and some pockets that I then outlined and added more pinstripes to. There's even 3 painted gold buttons on the left side of the jacket and some more tears in random places. I'm sure by this point I'm sounding like a broken record, but the arms have more of the pinstripe patterns, which if you ask me, came out really clean. I was a little bit worried about them, but I think I did well enough. Each side is painted to be as consistent as possible, but the tears on the sleeves help to add some uniqueness. I also painted the wrists on both of Wormtail's hands. Right now, he still has his right hand, but I made sure to also make a separate hand in silver to represent his look from Goblet of Fire. With all the pinstripes out of the way, I can talk about the head and hair. The head is pretty simple, it's just the official Timothy Spall print from 2019. I prefer this version as opposed to the 2023 version, but I repainted the eyebrows on both expressions. While the head is simple enough, the hair was giving me a challenge. I think the hair that LEGO opts for the character is fine, but I didn't want to reuse it for this video since Snape has that hairpiece too, and I think he needed it more. I thought maybe I could sculpt something, so I attempted it, but it wasn't working out the way I wanted. So as I was running out of time, I pulled out this mullet hairpiece that I was playing with earlier and painted it up. I don't think it's the most appropriate representation of Wormtail's gross hair, but it certainly works for now. Maybe later I could find something that looks a little bit more accurate. I don't have many accessories for Wormtail. I gave him another standard LEGO black wand element, as I did for Snape, but I didn't make anything else for him. So yeah, aside from the pinstripe pattern, Peter Pettigrew here is kind of a boring figure, but either way, I hope you've enjoyed watching this custom minifigure video, and now we can go ahead and finish up. Alright everyone, that's it for all of the custom minifigures in this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts, questions, or critiques, feel free to write me a comment and I'll probably get back to you. While these figures are mostly simple, I'm still glad I had the time to continue with the third installment in the LEGO Harry Potter minifigure series. I imagine I'll have the time to make a set for the remaining 5 films in the next few years, but I'm not promising anything. In the meanwhile, I hope you and the closest to you are having a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. Thanks again for checking out this video, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.